Okay, guys, I'm going to talk about frictionless security tonight. My communications instructor in college said to always start a talk with 2 huge jokes, so. There you go. About me, I'm Jerry Gamblin. There's my contact information. My day job, I work for Carfax. We'll get there in a little bit. You can read my blog at jerrygamblin.com, and there's how to get a hold of me. I have a deal with my son, Landon. He gets 1 slide in every presentation because he lets me fly around the world and do these things. He has his own website. He's way cooler than I am. Hopefully next year he will be here and I will get to stay at home. That's the plan. About Carfax, I work at a large data company. We did big data before big data was cool. We have 15 billion records on cars in America. We have about 1,500 data points per car, and that data is just growing like this. So there are 700 employees, about 250 of them are technical, 250 of them are in admin, and the rest are in sales. So we're a small company with a huge amount of data and a huge amount of customers, because basically nobody in America buys a car without one of our reports telling them, you know, hey, this car's been in a wreck, hey, this is when it had its oil changed. We're also expanding our Carfax Europe team, so if you guys are interested in jobs, I think we have a security role open on the Carfax.Europe team. About Carfax Security, we're a super small team, but we're well funded. We're not going to grow. At a company with 700 people, we're not going to have a 15, 20 person security team. So we do a lot of stuff outsourced, and we have to do as much stuff as we can tiger teamed. The truth is we have a lot of earned trust. I came in 2 years ago, and they didn't have a real security team or a real security program. So I spent the last 2 years working with teams, helping them build security into the product from the ground up. And a lot of that's been, you know, a learning experience. And I've caused a lot of friction, and I found a way to stop a lot of that friction. I hope to give you guys some advice tonight. And I'm going to go pretty fast because we're behind, and we're going to catch up and watch a movie. So feel free to catch me after the talk, and we go more in depth. So what causes friction? This slide right here, right? Like, everybody's seen this slide from 2 years ago where, you know, security is the janitor for DevOps, and we're always scooping the poop, right? And then you get the reverse of that, which I love. And the truth is, both of those are funny, but if you want to see how management sees DevOps and security when they do this is exactly it, right? They pay us very well, and if you're not being paid very well, you probably need to look at another job, but they pay us very well, and they don't want to hear our petty arguments on why security is wrong and, you know, why DevOps is right. And we end up in what we like to call in America a Mexican standoff. It's where 3 guys are pointing guns at each other, and whoever goes first ends up losing. So we end up in these situations where we can't win because we don't think we're on the same team. How many of you guys think your developers aren't on the same team as you? Why is that? So we're going to get to how to remove friction. I spent a lot of time and a lot of resources over the last 2 years working on trying to become more in their process. And it's hard. It's from PCI to SOX in America. We do a lot of stuff like this, and it takes a lot to get into these groups and to remove the friction. You need 55-gallon barrels of lube sometimes to get it going, right? Like, and you can buy this off jet.com for $1,500. Yeah, but you should see the shipping cost here. I was going to have one, but even I can't expense that. check your ego. Security people are known and to have a terrible egos, right? We're always right. When was the last time you were wrong about something? Yeah, when was the last time you told somebody that, oh, I was wrong about that? Yeah, try that a little more often and you'll see how your developers love you. Bring solutions. I hate the department of no, right? Like I don't let my analysts say no. If somebody wants a solution for something, we bring them a solution because that's why they come to us, right? They come and ask us, hey, we'd like to do this. How can we do this? The answer is never no. If you say no, they're going to work around you. How many of you guys have found a way a development team or an infrastructure team has worked around you 3 months later and you're like, why did you do this? Yeah, because they don't want to ask you because you're going to tell them no, but they need to do it to get their job done. And you have to speak the language of the business. Hey, how many of you guys work for a for-profit company? Yeah, what does your business want to do? How many of you guys think that you work for a security company, right? Like that was one of my first lessons is you don't work for a security company, you work for a data company who sells data. Yeah, while security companies and research companies get to do all this cool stuff, our job is to sell a product. And if you stop us from selling our product with overly hard security requirements that don't get anything done, we are going to not need you, right? It's over. There's no need for a security team to be in place if all they're going to say is no. They'll find somebody to say yes. And if you're passionate about security, which you should be, you want to walk that line. You don't want to be a guy who just comes in and says, I'm just going to sit here and say yes to everything because that's the easiest way, and then I just wait for the breach, and then I go find another job. You have to figure out what it is. And it's not surrendering, right? It's not giving up. And I know so many people who go to work every day and feel like they've just given up. They don't have any sway in the organization. They can't say anything. Everything they say is no. It's because they've lost all credibility inside their organization, because if you tell somebody no and you become a roadblock, they're just going to work around you. I do get one flip the table moment a year, right? Like me and my boss had this conversation. I get one, we're not doing this, I don't care how much we're going to make moment a year. And you got to figure out when to use that, and that's hard, right? Like if you could say no one time and put the brakes on something, when would you use that? Because that's probably how many times you're going to use the security trump card a year and still be relevant in your organization. Is you can say, no, we can't do that. There's no good way to go ahead with that. Let's think about this and let's stop. Other than that, you better be bringing solutions, or you're going to get worked around, or you're just not going to be part of the flow. Soft tools. You guys are not in security. You're in marketing. Your job is to market good security hygiene to the rest of your company. That's where it starts. That's where it finishes, right? Everything you do in between on the keyboard is just busy work, basically, because all it takes is one developer to overlook some passwords, or to set a password to the wrong thing, or to put a password on a sticky note, and you're done. So you're in marketing. Your job is to make them love security because it makes their job easier. If you do it the other way, you're just going to end up outsourced, right? You're going to end up outside of the chain, outside of the sphere of influence. Empathy. How many of you guys know how hard it is to write code? Like, how many of you guys used to be developers? Yeah. I know so many people who are in security who have no idea what real life development is like, and what the pressure's like, and what finishing a sprint on time looks like. And they want to roll into a stand-up on a Thursday and say, oh yeah, you need to rewrite all this code because we have to have it this way, or we're not gonna approve that ticket. By the end of the week, please, yeah. Yep. No, go ahead. It's open, yep. How many meetings do you guys go to a week as security people? So I attend 26 hours of meetings a week out of my 40-hour week, right? Why? Because you have to be there to have your opinion heard. Nobody's going to come to you and ask you to give them more work. If they're having a kickoff, you need to be in their kickoff. If they're having a huddle, you have to go to their huddles. Because, you know, like little kids, they're not going to come and say, hey, do I need to clean my room this week? It's not the way it works. Tell the truth. This is hard for security people. How many of you guys lie about vulnerabilities? When was the last time you told somebody they needed to patch something because there was a vulnerability and you didn't know what the vulnerability was? Yeah, Travis isn't here today. I wish he was. But all my guys have POC or GTFO shirts. We don't work in the, this might be a vulnerability, let's lead all the traffic off one data center to another and patch something, and you guys got to work on Saturday because I read somewhere that there's a half a threat intelligence feed that says we might be vulnerable. We have to have actionable data to make people do the work, right? Because going back to the gifts with the money, we want to make money, and when you say, hey, we have to bring in a team of 8 to work over a weekend to patch a firewall or a router because, you know, there might be a vulnerability somebody heard of. That's a real number, right? That's $20,000. But it's not real. So as much as we want to tell people to tell us the truth, we have to do it to them too. If there's not a vulnerability that you can say, hey, I know that we are vulnerable to this, here's the code, here's why we have to patch it, let it hit your normal patching window. So tech tools. Keep calm and automate everything. How many of you guys have a developer on your team who does nothing but write code? Nobody has a security developer on their team. Yeah. You guys need one. So here is what a CI process looks like when you don't have a security developer. And on this side, this is what happens when you do. You guys test in your CI process, right? Who writes those tests? Yeah, here's a hint. If you're letting your developers write the security tests that are happening in your CI process, they're probably not testing for the right things. If you're expanding your team this year, hire somebody to write security tests and write security tools for your CI process, for your continuous integration process. It'll help you out tremendously. How many of you guys have ever worked in a tool shop? And our mechanics garage, people really guard their tools, right? And it's, don't get in my toolbox, that's my toolbox. If you touch it, I'm gonna cut your hand off type of talk, right? Like, why? Do we do that with our security tools? How many of you guys would freak out if you saw a developer running Kali? What would you do if you walked into the development team and somebody had Kali fired up in a VM?
I would say use Arch Linux.
Let me show you the right way to do it. I mean, I know so many people who get freaked out about their developers learning security. It doesn't make sense. I spent a lot of time over the last year building security tools into Slack because everybody uses Slack now, right? Most teams, so right now my developers can in-map a box with Slack. They can test the Nessus scan from Slack. They can run this vulnerability scanner that'll show them what their servers have. You have to give them the information, and it's all simple. It's all on GitHub, on my GitHub account, and you can pull it down and run it in your organization. It's super simple, but I'm giving my developers tools because I don't have a big team. If I make every developer 10% of a security role, I'm gonna have 20 security people when all 200 developers start thinking securely. And I would never get a 20-person headcount no matter what I did. Docker, right? I love Docker. How many of you guys have started using Docker for your security teams? I put Kali in a browser. I'm going to put Arch Linux tonight just so that you're happy. But you have to be able to give them tools. We're making a big push to Docker. So anything that you can take the tools that your teams use and give them security tools over the top of it, it's going to make them happier. It's going to make them feel part of the security team and not like you're actively fighting against them. I jumped the gun on that. Yeah, I teach Kali Linux every quarter to my development teams, and we teach Burp. We have Fridays. We take a Friday and we say, I'm going to teach you the tools my team uses. You want to take part of your professional development time and come sit through a class. Let me show you how you burp all your traffic through Burp, and look at what we do, right? Because people are interested. They know that security's a hot job, and that they know that if they learn these skills, they're going to be more marketable. And if we lose a developer because of that, it's not a huge deal, especially if they're looking at their code before it goes into production. They're showing this movie today, and I'm super glad. But these guys are management consultants. How many of you guys have had somebody come in and do a consulting walk down of your security program? It's painful, but did it make you better? It made us better. That didn't look like a good. So where we failed, we did not listen. How many of you guys are good at listening? Yeah, nobody. Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah. If we fail at this so much, you go to a team and you say, "Hey, we need you to do this." And they're giving us the information of why they can't, and we say, hey, we need you to do this. So instead of helping them remove the roadblocks, we just want to tell them, you have to do what we say, right? What's the worst gift you've ever got? Have you ever given a development team or an infrastructure team a gift they don't want? You're like, hey, we bought you this new tool we need you to implement. Yeah, it's knack. Oh, wait, you don't have people for it? We already spent $1 million on it. Just put it in place. You'll like it. They told us, right? You have to give people what they want and not what you think they want. How many projects can your security team work on a year? How many things can you get done in a sprint? You guys know? Do you know what your intake and outtake is and how to properly balance your team so that everybody up the chain and down the chain knows what you can work on and what you can't? Or do you just a black hole and they're like, hey, yeah, we need you to take care of all the web security and all the infrastructure security and all the desktop security and any other thing that sounds like security, and maybe take care of the doors and all the cameras, and you can do that, right? We do that all the time. People just say, oh, it's security, let's just throw it in there, it'll fit. We go too fast. When was the last time you guys have slowed down and just taken some time to hang out with the development team to see what their concerns are? Or are you just trying to fix one project and on to the next? We're in firefighter mode way too much. You can learn so much by taking a day a month and just sitting with the development team and just say, hey, tell me what you're working on. Tell me what your concerns are. Here's a great question that is scary and will get you so far ahead. When was the last time you've asked somebody who worked in your company how they would hack you? And give a prize to the person who has the best answer. How would you hack us? They will find stuff and tell you stuff that you didn't know existed. They'll be like, oh yeah, we have this one account from 30 years ago when we first started that's still active. And if we change it, it breaks 90% of everything, right? Like, you'll never know about that. Hiring the wrong consultants. How many of you guys have hired a consultant that have just killed any momentum you had? Yeah. Why does that happen? If security people think they're this smart, where do consultants think they rank? Yeah, here. And they're like, yeah, we need you to patch all this stuff, and here's our report. And you're like, but half of this stuff is wrong. And they're like, no, nothing that we have is wrong. Well, you've estimated half the scores in here, and they're all 8s. I mean, like, you have to form relationships with your partners, with your consultants, and especially when you're on a small team, and use them to grow your business. And I know everybody is big on, let's just change auditors our consultants every time because, hey, they might find something new. You're probably better off sticking with the same consulting firm and building that relationship so they know about your infrastructure, know about your pain points, and they can help you walk through them. You do not work at a security company, unless you work at a security company, but most of us don't work at security companies, right? Most of us go to work for a company who's trying to do something else, and our job is security. I've never made my company any money, right? They're not like, hey, Jerry, thanks for landing that $10 million deal last year. They're more like, Jerry, you need how much money this year? You know you don't make us any money, right? Like, you have to understand that you are a cost center to these people, and you're doing the opposite of make it rain. You're spending their resources that they could use on dancing pandas. So what's next? We're working on a Tiger team where we're going to start bringing in developers, a group of developers and a group of security people, and start having them build complex security solutions that we need to do, right? And we figured this is the way it works. You can bring everybody in for one sprint a quarter, bring in the best of the best, put them together, and let them solve hard problems. Because that's what it comes down to, is A, figuring out what your hard problems are, and B, how you're gonna solve them. And the only way we're gonna be able to do it is to put together teams that are gonna be the best of the best. We also have to build our own tools. You can't buy off-the-shelf tools to take care of 90% of your problems, right? Everybody has different software, different hardware, customer hardware, and you have to have somebody on your team to write software. I've started writing a lot of software because I figured, hey, if I can write this program and everybody's going to use it, it's way better than, trying to buy something that nobody can use, right? Like, we pulled out one vulnerability scanner because nobody was able to log into it. We put in a secondary one that we are able to make work with Slack, and now people are able to check what vulnerabilities their server has. They can run burp scans from Slack, right? Like, they love it because we've empowered them to do what they would normally have to get in the security queue for. Metrics, this is the hardest thing in security. You can't fund what you can't measure, and you can't measure security very well, because you know how long they let you get by with, well, we didn't get hacked as a reason to spend, $10 million? About once. And then they want to say, okay, can you show me how many real attempts you had? How many attempts you stopped? What you think our pain points are? And metrics is the hardest thing to do in security because A, they're either way blown out of proportion, or B, they don't make us look that valuable. And finding metrics that are real and actionable are hard. So I flew through that because I know we have other stuff to do tonight. So I'll be around for the rest of the conference, and I would love to talk to you guys more about this and show you some of the stuff I put in Docker. I think I'm going to go speak at the private track tomorrow on that. So there's my contact information again, and thank you guys very much for listening.